Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is episode 3 of Maverick Voices. Today we have an exciting conversation with Jasmine Gant. Jasmine is a double major. That's right, in nursing and in human services. So she has a unique perspective on navigating our school. But she also has a very interesting journey. You see, Jasmine in her conversation talks about how she graduated from USC, but found that she didn't quite like the career that she was in. So she decided to come to Midlands Tech to find a new career. I know you'll enjoy this conversation, and I look forward to sharing it with you all. I'm Patrick Bennett, and this is Maverick Voices. Welcome to the Maverick Voices podcast. I am Patrick Bennett, your host. And today we have an excellent guest with us. We have Jasmine Gant. She is one of our more outstanding students here at Midlands Tech, and she is a leader in so many different organizations that you will find out today. And I'm really glad to have her to talk a little about her journey in MTC, as well as what MTC kind of means to her. So Jasmine, how are you feeling today? I know it's a little dreary day as we record this, but how are you doing today?
I'm happy to be here. Woke up and saw another day.
Oh, that is always wonderful. It's always wonderful to be on this side of the earth. So Jasmine, give us a little bit of background about yourself. Where you kind of come from, tell us a little about what you like, what you don't like, those type of things.
I'm a non-traditional student. I graduated with the Bachelor's of Science in Public Health from the university, Go Cox, USC, the USC, not that other one. And so I've been working in the field predominantly working in like health education, diabetes prevention, different kind of health research, everything that kind of intersects public health and helping at-risk and vulnerable populations, those folks who need it the most, needs the most attention. And so, yeah, that's my education paths as far as like personal, military, family. My dad did 28 years active duty military, so hopped around a few places moving. I call Beaufort, South Carolina home, even though I've lived in Columbia the longest. I'm one of those folks, I went to USC and I loved Columbia and just stayed. So here I am now.
So what compelled you to go into this healthcare field? So you specifically, what compelled you to look specifically at diabetes prevention and all that research? I'm kind of interested in that.
It's like a mixed bag, really. I originally went to USC and I was in pharmacy school, like did the white coat ceremony, had all that. This is many moons ago. And it was something that I was good at, but in looking at career trajectory wise, I wasn't going to be fulfilled. Just looking at how things were panning out, there's a bigger focus on a lot of commercial pharmacies and things like that. And the internship I'd done in high school, it was in a small town, really community based. We could do compounding. So uh, had to switch it up. So went to public health, and it was one of the best decisions I'd ever made. Truly, it was like a calling that I never knew was really there. It kind of encapsulates all the things I care about. Looking at social determinants of health, where we're not just looking at people and their individual responsibility to themselves, because of course, yeah, as an adult, I'm responsible for what I eat, right? But looking at things from a systemic place, how do the policies in this country, how do the systems that are set in place impact what we do? And so public health marries all of that. And I think it has one of the broadest reaches in trying to help folks and change how we live and what we do. And so going through public health and working the jobs that I was working really, really fulfilled. I just got to a point career-wise, not going to tell my age, but, about 10 years after my bachelor's, I'm at the point now where I was kind of capped salary-wise as far as advancement. And, I always keep my Indeed notifications on, looking at what type of jobs are out there. You never know when you might find your dream job, because my real dream job is to hit the lottery. But just in case, I'm looking at different jobs. And so I saw that a lot of jobs that I thought would go to a person with a master's in public health, they were going to nurses. So I
Mm.
said, well, okay, we're going to nursing school.
So that's how you ended up at MTC.
That's how I ended up at MTC. You were asking about like diabetes and all that specifically, but it's all covered under that. A lot of my family members have type 2 diabetes. I've had family members pass from type 2 diabetes. I don't think there's a person here on this earth who doesn't know somebody impacted by it. And so it was just one of those natural progressions where's the most need for the most part.
So I want to go back a second. You said something about your background, and then we'll come back to discussing, how did you end up at MTC? You said your dad was in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did he instill in you? I always think of military, I think of discipline, like lots of discipline. So would you say that was true of your father overall?
Um, Interestingly enough, not really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my mom, she was the solid structure. Um, for definitely. My dad, he's an interesting character in the sense that he was the biggest teddy bear ever. Not at all of what, at least at home. When he's with his Marines, that's a different story. But he left the military, for the most part, he left the military at work. He still brought home, being ambitious and being determined and following through. And he did a lot to instill confidence in me and really a good job as far as delegating and recognizing how to plan and see things through. That's my dad. But my mom was really the one who had a lot of the structure. My dad was fun.
That makes a lot of sense. So, kind of tell me, when you first came to MTC, so you're a non-traditional student coming back, what were your initial thoughts and feelings when you came to MTC?
Man, I don't want to be back in school again, but I got to do what I got to do. And I was really, really thankful for the option of having a tech school because I said, I already got this 4-year degree. I do not feel like going back to get another 4-year degree. What is the quickest way to get me from where I'm at now to where I want to be? And I also knew I was not interested in moving. I knew I wanted some in-person components as well. It had been some time since I'd been back in school. And so I wanted something that would fit all of those things. And Midlands Tech was that.
So, how has your experience been? I want to compare your experience. It's going to be totally different, right? So, you was at USC, big USC, 4-year institution, living in dorms probably, or living in your own little place. Now you're at MTC, which is commuter campus. It's quite different. So, kind of tell us, how has your experience? You can compare the experiences, you cannot, but compare. How has your experience been here in comparison to your previous 4-year experience?
It's kind of like apples and oranges in the sense they're both fruits, but you're going to get a completely different taste and feel. And so, USC, that's a city in and of itself. They got their own zip code, 29. I don't remember the zip code for mailing purposes on campus, but it's its own city. And fortunately for me, I'm extremely extroverted. I've never met a stranger. Thanks to my dad, I've never met a stranger. So being in that type of environment and having the upbringing I had, I really flourished there. My general ed classes, my intro level bio 101, that's 200 plus people, huge class. Coming to Midlands Tech, much smaller environment, I don't think I had a class over, once you go to the sections, much, much smaller, maybe 50 max, maybe. And now that I'm in my 5th semester in the nursing program, I think there's about 30 some odd of us total getting ready to graduate in May. So it's a very big difference. So it's an easier process to form those lasting one-on-one connections with your professors. And I think that's extremely crucial and pivotal for any field, but especially for nursing and human services, where so much of it is connected to who do you know and having that personal rapport where you're going to be dealing with a lot of different strangers, a lot of different people. I would also say just the overall help. Both campuses offer a lot of resources and a lot of help. What I noticed with Midlands Tech is that they're kind of operating under the assumption that we're going to meet you wherever you're at. if you've never pursued education after high school, maybe it's been 20 years since you've taken a class. I've noticed that Midlands Tech does a lot to help with that, whereas I kind of felt like US operated under the assumption that y'all probably already know how to operate D2L and online learning management systems and different things like that. I don't know if it's changed since I've been, but I would say Midlands Tech definitely does. They do a lot to make sure that you're feeling comfortable going in as far as staying on top of advisement. I remember with USC, I just logged online and did my advisement, looked online, saw what classes. Whereas Midlands Tech, I had to meet with my advisor, and I see the benefit in that. That's not lost on me at all.
So, Jasmine, kind of speak on a little bit. You mentioned nursing. So, that is one of your majors, but I understand that you are a double major. So, speak on kind of the combination of nursing as well as your other major and how those two marry together in some regards.
So I am pairing together an associate's in human services along with the behavioral interventionist certificate. So shout out to the human services department. That's kind of a new certificate. So folks, look into it if you don't already know. That's a quick plug. But human services is a perfect complement to nursing and vice versa, in that I wholly believe in looking at a person in their entirety. And that's not to say that nursing does that, but in a lot of acute care settings, we are looking at what are your symptoms and what am I doing to manage and treat that. And so, in looking at my overall, I'm also considering with human services, there's a big focus on, well, how did you get here? What's your background? And what resources are out there that I can connect you with? Nursing does that too, but it's a different type of focus. Human services gives me more of that social work component where I'm looking at the person in their environment and all of the many, many ties they have that are influencing their behavior and their overall outcomes. Human services also does a wonderful job on really polishing my therapeutic communication. And it doesn't matter who I'm speaking to, what's going on, are they in crisis intervention, case management, all of those things. Those are things I'm going to have to do as a nurse anyway.
Yeah.
I have to talk to people. Human services is making sure that I'm going to be even more efficacious in that communication. Nursing teaches it, but that's a small part of our curriculum. Whereas human services, I had a whole class on interviewing techniques. I had a whole class on group dynamics. I had a whole class on case management. I had a whole class on crisis intervention. Whereas nursing gave me a snippet of those things. And so there's
Mhm.
a lot of overlap between the two. So I've found that it's been really complementary and really helpful. And I'm putting that into practice every day with my current diabetes prevention participants that I'm helping, with my current patients as a student nurse tech. And the behavioral interventionist component that focuses more so on like alcohol and drug abuse and peer support, that type of stuff. I got patients that are coming on the unit, detoxing and things like that. I have family members that, I want to love and help from afar in whatever capacity I can. And so having that deeper understanding of these processes, it just makes sense. It just makes sense.
You dropped a big word during that conversation. You said efficacious. I couldn't. You said something that I didn't say it right, but I was like, "Ooh, I like that word. I'm gonna have to use that word going forward." So you'll hear it when you hear this podcast back. I was like, "Ooh, that was a big word." So Jasmine, tell us a little bit about any activities or organizations that you've been involved in while you've been at MTC.
Believe it or not, I took a bit of a back seat being involved up until last semester. Yeah, last semester. I was super involved in high school, super involved in undergrad at USC. And I came here and it was just a lot of life going on and life and really hard. So I got involved last semester in our Student Nurses Association and I was secretary last semester. This semester, I am the president. And if I can fit it into my schedule, I want to join the Human Services Club meetings, but they like to meet during clinical time. So we'll see how it works out. And, giving some feedback with the uh, the belonging and diversity committee. So that's the length of my involvement currently. I did do 2 semesters as an MTC ambassador during prime shutdown pandemic time. And outside of that, this is pretty much it.
So tell us a little about the actual classroom. So tell us about a particular influential professor or class that you've had at MTC thus far.
Well, hands down, it's going to be Miss Doris Chaplin, the incomparable, the wonderful, the magnificent, the what would you do? Are you going to go to lunch? And folks who have had Miss Chaplin understand those phrases that I'm saying. She's been with the program nearly 40 years. And there is not a time on my clinicals or even when I'm working where I have not met a nurse who either knows her from working with her or who was taught by her. So that's just the kind of presence that she has, not only at Midlands Tech, but throughout the Midlands. It's really, really a beautiful to behold. And I have to 100% thank her for really helping me to feel just like truly competent. It's one thing to know that, okay, yeah, I know I'm smart. I know that of myself, but feeling comfortable as a future nurse and how she really, really helped me to critically think in a way that's completely different from anything I've ever done. Thank you, Miss Doris Chaplin, if you're listening.
I really hope Doris listens to this. You know, I've heard so many
Well, I
nursing.
can't call her Doris yet. I got to
Oh,
graduate
not
first.
Miss
That's Miss
Chaplin. My
Chaplin.
bad. I really hope Miss Chaplin is listening to this, even though I know Miss Chaplin in a different light.
Mhm.
But she is one of our awesome nursing instructor professors, and I have seen so many nursing students give shouts out to her. What would Miss Chaplin do? Is something that I've heard on several occasions. So if you're listening, Miss Chaplin, I know you've been at college a long time. You are loved and appreciated by so many of your nursing students. So I really hope you get to listen to this podcast and get that shout out. So, Jasmine, how do you balance academics with life? How do you do it? What's the tip? Any tips you want to give our listeners?
You got to live and die by your planner. You need to have a planner. It's not going to be, you can't have it all living in your head. At least I can't. So I have a hard copy planner. I have a small version that I can keep on my body within my backpack, throw it in a purse, and then I have a larger size that stays at home for when I have to be more detailed. And my phone is my best friend. All those electronic reminders, whether it's through my calendar app, a reminder app, Microsoft to do task list, whatever it is, I'm taking advantage of it. So I'm really, really big on proactively planning a life that's going to be manageable for me because I'm doing a lot of different things. It's not just school. I'm also working and I got family and I want to have fun and enjoy life too. So I make sure I do that. And I wouldn't be able to if I didn't plan. And I also have the wonderful, wonderful support of my husband and my family and my friends, because if you don't have a network, it's really, really hard. It's really hard.
So, kind of tell us, have you experienced any challenges in your educational journey? So you mentioned earlier that you was at USC, you graduated from USC, and then you decided to come to MTC. What was you kind of touched on it earlier, but was there any challenging thoughts or any negative thoughts that came to mind when you thought about coming back to school besides, going back to school and having to do all this work again? Were there any challenges initially that you experienced or are ongoing?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was attached to just going back to school. It was more so that whole life being extra lifey at that time. So my grandmother contracted COVID December 2021. And going through that experience, she's out of state in Alabama. I had already been essentially like her virtual, caretaker, so to speak. She was doing fine living on her own. I was helping her out with, setting up the online bill pay, getting you groceries delivered, that type of stuff. But she was at a point where she was released from the hospital, released from rehab. She needed help. She couldn't live alone anymore. And so at that point, I was still doing my prereqs because since I'm an old head, I had to retake some science courses that had aged out. So I was in anatomy and physiology online at that time through Midlands Tech, still working full time with DHEC virtually, but I had to move to Alabama
Oh
and
wow.
take care. Yeah. Oh, well, that's my grandma.
Yeah, that's grandma. Grandma needs to take
That's my
care of
grandma.
it.
Instead of playing with my younger cousins back in the day, I'd be hanging out with grandma. So
Mm,
it was a no-brainer. My uncle, my dad's brother, and my dad, they had already passed at that point. So within maybe like a two-year period, I'd lost my dad, I lost my uncle, I'd lost my great uncle, and now here's I have to take care of my grandmother.
mm,
So just balancing all of that was extremely difficult, not just from like a school point, but just emotionally. And anybody who's been a caregiver, because it was just me. My sister, I'm very gracious to her. She's a school teacher. She came during her spring break and helped me out. And my mother, very supportive as well financially, but I was the one there.
right,
So I came out of that semester good. I'm good to go. You see, I'm about to graduate in May, but
right.
that was very hard getting through all of that.
I think what you're speaking to, Jasmine, is the perseverance it takes for a students or our students in general, but especially our older non-traditional students, our more seasoned students. You're not that seasoned, but more from what I can see on the screen, even though people listen to this. But it takes a lot of different life will happen, right? It'll happen to our 18-year-old students, it'll happen to our older students. It's about pushing through and
hmm
getting through life. And what MTC does, I think, so well, and our professors, we understand
hmm
that life is going life, and we have
Yeah.
to. Life is all about pivots in a lot of ways.
hmm
And in that
Absolutely.
situation, you had to pivot.
Yeah.
Um,
I had to pivot. So like when I we're on virtual class, I have to I send my little message in the Zoom to my professor, hey, 5 minutes, I gotta go handle this for grandma right quick. I got you, I can hear you, but if you need some involvement, some engagement, I can't do that right now. So really, really understanding. It was a difficult time, but I'm thankful for the support I did have. All my instructors were very understanding.
so we're coming closer to the end of our conversation. Got a couple more questions. So, what advice would you offer students considering MTC?
Do your research and what are you waiting for? That's pretty much it. Come into it. It's like a pretty much like your bank account. You're not going to get anything out of it that you didn't put in. So treat this experience legitimately. It's not play pretend college. This is college. I went to the 4 year degree. I'm at Midlands Tech too. Both extremely challenging, both difficult, both really, really worthwhile, worth my time. So come into it having an idea of what you want. You don't have to have it all planned out. There's plenty of undecided majors at any 4 year institution too, but have some kind of idea. And then once you do decide, do your research to make sure you're staying on track. Get involved. I know there's a lot of pulling and constraints on you when it comes to your other life commitments, but you want to be a well-rounded person, not just for your future career and the people you might interact with and help, but for yourself. You'll get a better experience overall in meeting other people, not just your classmates and your instructors, but out in the community, out in the field, network.
So, what's next for Jasmine Gant? What's next for you? You said you're going to graduate in May. Are you going to go right into the field? Are you going to try to go get that bachelor's, or are you just good with the associates? What's next for you?
Look, the world is my oyster. So the next up is I've already secured my full-time job as a nurse.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. I sealed the deal on that over a year ago. So there's Prisma Health has a ready to work program where you can do um, expanded skills outside of what you would do as a traditional nurse tech or a CNA. So every shift I'm working side by side a registered nurse. So that experience has been
That's
extremely
awesome.
beneficial. Yeah. It's been extremely beneficial to helping with my critical thinking skills, feeling more comfortable doing skills. I've done skills at work that I haven't had the opportunity to do at school. And I'm not saying that to shame the school, but at the end of the day, when you're assigned a patient in clinicals, it is what it is. You know, what that patient is, what you do. So that's
Mm-hmm.
just the luck of the draw sometimes. So I'm really thankful for that experience. So through that program, I'll be working on the unit that I've been working on for a year. I'm already comfortable with my colleagues. I understand the population, geriatric population, which that's my heart, you know, my grandma.
Yeah.
So I'll be working there for at least 2 years, and we'll go from there and see how things go. I already have plans to do the RN to BSN transition. Um, Putting some fillers out to see where I decide to do that. But beyond, I know I'll eventually go on to get advanced degrees after that. We'll just see where I need to stop.
Well, I'm proud that you you got your future already somewhat planned out, and that Midlands Tech has provided you the opportunity and the access to those jobs. You know, our motto is you can get anywhere from here. And you know, you are a good prime example of that. So, Jasmine, are there any other closing thoughts you would like to say as we wrap up our conversation and I let you go in a little bit? Anything else you would like to say?
I'd like to do a quick plug. It really is true that you can get anywhere from here with Midlands Tech. I made it all the way to Barcelona, Spain, because Midlands Tech was doing a study abroad trip last year, and it was a wonderful experience. And I was able to not only get to know other students, but the instructors that were on that trip. There was psychology, geography. Having that experience, I really enjoyed it, and I didn't. That was something I didn't get to do at USC. I didn't get to do a study abroad, and even though this was condensed, it was just a week. I'm still really thankful for that experience, and I have friends from that trip that I still talk to today.
Oh man, I wish I could have went to Barcelona, but I want to do a plug.
Hmm.
2025 Costa Rica. If you're listening to this, they're going to Costa Rica in 2025. I don't know what I mean. They're gonna have less people this time because Barcelona was a lot. So if you are super interested in going to a study abroad trip, be look out for the information sessions from Dr. Grabatini. Is over that particular program, so please reach out to him. So Jasmine, I want to thank you for being here with us today. This was an awesome conversation. We really look forward to what you're going to do in the future. And this is Maverick Conversations. This is our podcast for you, our Midlands Technical College community. And I look forward to our next conversation with our next faculty, staff, or student. But for now, I'll see you later and go Mavericks.